I thought this lab assignment, my public speaking lab, was very informative and very helpful with my progression as a public speaker. I thought it was interesting to me because it showed me that people have been in situations similar to me, and everyone's kind of in the same boat when it comes to public speaking. You start off usually decent or maybe not so good, and you just got to keep practicing and progressing as time goes on. And that showed throughout the video because it showed children of really all ages and how they talked about how they were shy at one point and maybe grew socially into a better speaker. It showed me that it's not easy to do. Public speaking is not an easy thing to do, no matter what the setting is. It takes a lot of practice. You got to practice a lot, and it takes time. For me, I hope to become a teacher one day, so public speaking is something I'm going to be doing every single day in front of a class, in front of other teachers, admissions, everyone pretty much, everyone that's involved in a school setting. Also, I want to become a coach, so I'm going to have to talk with my athletes, let them know what's going on, talk to the athletic director about scheduling and what time practice is, what time games can be, and our overall schedule in general. And it also takes a lot of preparation. It's not an easy thing to do. You got to practice and be prepared. So when your audience is listening to you, they can understand you easily, and you can get your message across as a whole. For me personally, since I was little, I've always struggled with public speaking. It wasn't always the easiest thing for me. I was kind of a shy kid, so still a work in progress. But I can tell I'm definitely getting better. I'm looking forward to continue getting better. When I first started watching the film, I was interested in the beginning stages of what was going on with the little kids, because obviously little kids really communicating in general with big topics or different topics and being detailed about it can be a challenge. So it really showed me different ways they use public speaking and how it can be similar and different to adult public speaking. I liked how they included the young children though, because it shows you how important public speaking is at all ages. Not just one group or specific group of people really does public speaking. It's really everywhere you go. I connected these tactics and practices they use in the video to something I could use in real life that'll help benefit me and progress me as a public speaker. They talked about just really practice, do public speaking as much as you can, no matter if you're struggling with it and if you have a bad experience public speaking. You got to grow and learn from it and just not let it bother you that much. It happens really to everybody at some point, and you got to go in there with confidence. Another thing I definitely remember from the video is being prepared. I know that's not always easy, especially once you get to the adult and more job-like setting, because a lot of times, especially in the business major, you're probably going to be called on the spot with an impromptu, similar to that we did in class the other day. So I know that's not going to be easy. So it's really important to be prepared really at all times, especially in the business world. To become a better communicator as a whole, it's better to practice that and be good at public speaking, even with one-on-one conversations, big group, small group, or an entire big audience. It doesn't matter. You should always practice and be prepared for what you're saying so people can understand you and can easily get your message across. I like to think when I'm speaking that sometimes I think about what I just said and it doesn't really make sense, and I think of a better way that I could deliver that message maybe next time, or I'll just really just say it again, what I really meant to say. And usually a person I'm talking to or people that I'm talking to will understand it better then and really get a feel for what I'm trying to say. Next, I thought of research questions to ask my coach who I interviewed, Coach Potts, on the men's basketball team. And obviously in all sports, communication is a huge part of every single sport, really. No matter whether it's golf, I know golf's really one person's got the club, you got your caddy telling you what to do, what club to use, all that. Basketball, there's a bunch of players on the team. Coach, football, a bunch of players on the team. Baseball, a bunch of players on the team. It's really important to be able to communicate effectively and get your messages across, because you don't want to mess up or let your team down in any circumstance. So we do a lot of things on the basketball team, I know, that are community-based. We do community service. We go to schools and read to the little kids over Christmas at the elementary schools. And that's public speaking within itself, because that's a group of people that none of us really know or close to, and we got to go and talk to them about basketball, talk to them about really life as a whole, which is always, it's fun to do with kids because with kids, you're always not really, once you're the bigger person, you're not really worried about it because they're kids and they don't know what to think. They're just happy you're even there. So as a college basketball player, I thought it was very important to incorporate the communication we do both on and off the court and bring that into this project. So we obviously on the court, we got to talk all the time, whether we're calling out plays, whether we want to run a play, whether we're trying to stop someone, whether we need help, really in any circumstance. So communication obviously plays a big role in basketball as a whole. Off the court, like I just said, with community service, Coach Potts lets us know who has to be where at what time practice is, what time games are, what time the buses leave. There's just really a lot of communication that goes into all of that no one really thinks about. So that's why I picked how much effective communication impacts the success of a basketball team as my question. I felt that this was a good question because I feel like a lot of people don't really realize it. Like, people know we talk, obviously, and like we have to talk, but there's a lot more talking that goes on than someone would think. So as a college basketball player, I thought it was an interesting way to interview my coach and ask him about the aspects of coaching he really has to do, because I hope to become a coach one day. So I asked him about how he communicates with us, the players, and the other coaches, and the types of communication he uses to deliver his message. And he said that they don't always agree. Sometimes they disagree, but they find a way to compromise, which is always a great way to communicate as well, because you got to figure out ways. You're not always going to get your way when it comes to communication. Someone might say something that bothers you. Someone might say something positive. You just got to really be accepting and open and respectful to everyone who's talking. Whether it's a small group or a large group, once again, it's important to deliver your message carefully, but make sure that you get feedback as well. I talked about feedback with my coach as well, because I know how big of a part that is. He's going to keep pushing us to be the best we can be every day. So that's just how he is, because he wants the best out of us. So if we tell him one day we're really tired or someone's sick, maybe that's feedback for him, and maybe he could push practice back a little bit, make it a little easier for us, because, no one wants to be going that hard if someone's sick or not feeling well. So before I asked him the questions, I handed him a paper with my questions on it and gave him about a minute or two to just think about what his response would want to be, because I didn't want to go in there and just start throwing questions at him. He was very respectful with his responses and very open to talk about it. He talked about how the coaches really come together and make a decision off one thing, and another topic or decision. Another thing that he mentioned was how much of a factor film plays in our success, which is communication. It's more of a visual communication, but it's very interesting. It was interesting to me because I didn't really think about it. But when you can really see the mistakes or improvements you need to make as a player, it really helps, you understand what needs to be done. It helps his message to be clear, and it really brings in the effective communication piece as a whole. Then the film was obviously a big part of communication for us that I never really thought about. I also asked him about recruiting, and obviously as a college coach you can recruit. I hope to be a high school coach, so I probably will not have to worry about that because we're not allowed to recruit. But college coaches in general obviously have to recruit players coming out of high school. So I asked him what he kind of uses to maybe convince, persuade a person to come here, and he mentioned building a trust, which I also thought was a very important part of effective communication, because if someone doesn't trust you, they might not understand what you say. They might not want to understand what you say, or not want to hear what you have to say. So building that trust and knowing that he's here to do the best he can for you is really important for communication as a whole. And that, because if you don't trust someone, you're probably not going to listen to them. And if you're not listening, then you're not communicating really at all in general. So it's very important for that effective listening. I also briefly talked about throughout my paper, because even though my paper was mainly on effective communication, the best way to effectively communicate is for the receiver to effectively listen. And that's being tuned in and listening to every detail, not losing eye contact or being on your phone while someone's talking. So all those factors go into effective communication, and I thought that this project was very interesting, and I thought that it opened my eyes to many new aspects of communications and many new ways I can stay calm when I'm trying to communicate to others and public speak. So I thought this was very helpful, and I'm glad I got to experience this project.